Okay, as you can see here that the title of today's talk is Multispectral Imaging of Damaged Sacramental Journal Pages. Preliminary stuff. Okay? And obviously these are the members of the group that did the work. Okay? In this talk, Mr. Ankan, well, actually, Dr. Brent Seal's group tries to discover any ink signals that show up in a wide spectrum of light from ultraviolet to infrared, okay, using a multispectral imaging pipeline developed by his group. And this group also tries to study the ink signal response to the different combination of wavelengths and perform an ablation study that gives us a list of combinations. I don't think I should give you more details because I don't understand this at all. Okay, so let's welcome Ankan for this interesting talk. And expect to be about 40 minutes. Okay.
Hello. Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Dr. Chen. Yeah, so we were studying some I'll explain you why we were studying it and what is that we are studying. So it's basically a sacramental journal. I will go through what a sacramental journal is and how it was damaged and what is multispectral imaging and why are we doing multispectral imaging. So this will be the flow of the talk. So first,
can you briefly introduce the members of the group?
Yes. So the members of the group, like I am very thankful to my supervisor, Dr. Brent Seals, Seth Parker and Christy Chapman. So Seth Parker and Christy Chapman are a part of our group, and Seth and Christy Chapman has helped me a lot, especially with the formation of the project and how to what to do with the project, bringing the project on board. And Seth specifically has helped with the imaging portion of the whole journal pages and everything, camera setup and everything. Basically, I have tried to introduce the concept through two animations, and this is the first time I'm doing animations. So Seth was the one who has taught me how to do animations in Adobe Premiere Pro or Lightroom. So yeah, he is the guy who taught me all this stuffs regarding videos and cameras, how to take images, how images work. And Dr. Seals is a great inspiration for me. As you know, he has been trying for more than 2 decades to discover any ink segments that has been present in damaged artifacts of Engedi scrolls or Dead Sea scrolls. So he is able to do that now. So yeah, these people are a great inspiration to me, and yeah, this formed a part of my life. Along with this guy that I have been taught, I cannot live without this guy also. So yeah, this is also important to me. Yeah. So moving on, this talk will follow this process. The first will be, as you know, it is the damage of Sacramental journal. So first I will just tell about what are the damages and how the damages were how the damages occurred, and then moving on, I will be letting you know why was it important to discover, so why is it important to restore such text from this kind of pages, and what is eventually leading to the fact, what is a Sacramental journal? Why is it important to the church, or which church we were working with? And slowly I will lead up the pace and move on to what is multispectral imaging and why were we doing multispectral imaging instead of we can take RGB images and work with it, but why are we using multispectral imaging? I'll brief on that. And then I will introduce our automated pipeline that forms the whole process that helped to restore the text from those pages. Those are really damaged. And then there are some preliminary results that I will be sharing, and there will be a closing slide, and then I'll open up to the audience for questions. So, but before everything begins, Where is the place are we talking about? Where did the pages that we worked on came from? It's from here, New Orleans. So this is where everything came from. So the damage in New Orleans, as you know, was in 2006. It was August 24, 2006, when the Katrina hurricane hit the south of Florida in Miami at a speed with a tropical depression, swirling band of wind and rain. It picks up moisture and heat along the speed, and as the wind speed gains, then it is known as the Hurricane Katrina, growing into a Category 1 hurricane by 4 o'clock in the evening in the coast of Miami. Where Category 1 hurricane is about 80 miles an hour, so you can think what destruction might have been caused. Millions of homes lost power. It started in Florida and gained speed going into the Gulf of Mexico, and eventually gaining a Category 2 hurricane, which is around 100 miles an hour, which is huge. Local people tries to save their property, and the governors of Mississippi declares the state of emergency. As the day passes by, you can see the storm that has happened at that time. And as the day passes by, it's 27th of August, and the Katrina hurricane reaches Category 3, which is 115 to 120 miles an hour, and that's very huge. With New Orleans on its side, city officials urge the people to leave, to evacuate the place. Traffic jams were most of the people who had cars were trying to go out with cars, and there were reported 18,000 cars which were traveling per hour out of the city. So there was a huge chaos. As the day went by, it was Sunday, it became and it was a disaster. On 28th of August 2006, Sunday, Katrina gained a Category 5 hurricane leading to 200 miles an hour, and it was a total disaster. The people were dead, and there were no means to offer shelter by that time. As the storm breaks, and then by 29th August, the hurricane started slowing down, again back to a Category 4 hurricane, slowing down at around 150 miles an hour. The eye of the hurricane moves from New Orleans to the east of New Orleans, but the city is not spared at all. New Orleans sits below the level of Mississippi with a wall called levee, which blocks the Mississippi water from coming in New Orleans. However, by 8 a.m. it was reported that the whole wall was broken, and the whole water from the Mississippi was in the whole 80% of the New Orleans was underwater, and it was there were dead bodies floating around, and houses were submerged with with 20 feet of water. By this time, New Orleans was totally destructed and flooded physically. But by this time, the hurricane moves down here to Tennessee and Kentucky. But New Orleans was a total despair. And by 30th of August, this might be a disturbing image, but yes, dead bodies were floating around over here, and the damage was immense. The New Orleans, there was no power. The residents stood on the rooftop in order to get rescued, but the rescue team had to be stopped soon, because there were murders and crimes that were happening. People were going around killing each other. So yeah, that was a total the whole city the lives of people were changed. And this is the Superdome that people took shelter on. This is the dome that the Mercedes-Benz dome. That is how it looks now. But previously it was that where people took all the shelters. So people were there every time. So conditions at the Superdome were unsafe. People lacked foods and water. Police had to stop rescue operation to combat the crimes, as there were crimes occurring. But after a week, residents were rescued. Their life changed. And their whole life changed by just the power of a hurricane. And you can understand New Orleans being a place where there is a place for. It's the first place where there was a church, Greek Orthodox community, Holy Trinity Church, that came here, that was here for the first time. So 150 years of Holy Trinity, more than 150 years of Greek staying here, you can understand. It is these are religious people. It is an ancient faith, one steeped into mystery and symbolism, one that has been celebrated for over 1,000 years. It is enriched in faith, tradition, and history, a religion that requires the use of all senses to fully recognize and know God is within and around all of us. The faith is Orthodox Christianity, and they do believe the Greeks are inseparable from Orthodoxy, and they do believe that Orthodox Christianity was the first ever form of Christianity that came in, and this is the Greek Orthodox Church. So you can understand, like, people go to like churches, you need to pray, they need to pray, sing, smell like incense, see the hear the ringing of the bells. Everything was peace to them. But now, due to the hurricane, it was completely destroyed. People lost hope. They were like the whole church was destructed and everything. Slowly, the excavators started to rebuild, renovate the church itself. But what happened to the content of the church? The main subject of this talk is the Sacramental Journal. So, as the Sacramental Journal is a book that contains, that it should be in every church, and that contains the church's belief and how Christianity practices were there, and this also includes who got baptized in that church, who baptized the child, what was the date of baptism, and the priest who baptized and when the priest died. So these are the information that are contained in Sacramental Journal, and you can believe that being completely destroyed.
The depth of baptism? Oh, date. Okay.
Date. Sorry, I'm sorry for my pronunciation. The date of baptism and the priest who baptized, when he died, all these things were in the journal, and you can understand, like, this encodes the history of the whole church, and that was completely shattered. And this was one of the pages this was the kind of damage that had happened. So you can see, like, you can't read anything. These black things are molds, and due to the water being stagnant over there for over a long period of time, molds have occurred, the inks have washed away, and this is what has happened. And the reason we are also doing is, they contacted Dr. Sales, our team, to restore everything. And there is if you see the fourth paragraph, it says, before there was Holy Trinity in 1864 on the North American continent, we had Russian Orthodox churches in Alaska and California before their statehood. The data we quantified from the previous imaging was established a multi-ethnic Orthodox population, not just in New Orleans but throughout the Gulf Coast and their cities. It informs us of where our priest has traveled to provide all the sacraments. So these are the information that are there in the Sacramental Journal, and they have given these 5 pages. We work with this data they have given, and these are the condition of the pages, like page 1, page 5, page 11, and page 300 CZ. This is the name of the pages they have back there. And this is, as I have shown you, this is one of the pages that was heavily destroyed, totally destroyed. Now, multispectral imaging. Why are we doing multispectral imaging? Okay. So this is the thing what happens. These are commercial cameras. When you take a picture in this camera, so what happens is that this is an apochromatic lens maybe. So what happens is that light comes in, it captures the image, and then behind the sensor there is a filtering that uses an algorithm called Bayer filtering. What it does is it captures an area from the sensor. Say this is the area of the sensor. It has thousands of photons in it. Bayer filtering decides which among those photons should go to the red channel, which among those photons should go to the green channel, and which among those photons should go to the blue channel. And it is quite not in our hand to control from image we have taken which should go as red, blue, or green. Yes, I do understand the image, the Bayer filtering is very advanced, but it's still not in our hand. So what if we take monochromatic images under different wavelength of lights, and then with according to our judgment, we put each of these grayscale in red, blue, and green channel. That should give us more control. That should give us more control over the image, the RGB color we are getting in the image. Why is this? Because the RGB color should be like a 3-channel, but in some cases there might be inks that shows up in red light. I want to put that in the red channel. There might be damages, water mold that shows up in blue light. I want to put that in blue channel, and that's how I might get. I will get a pseudo colored image. I'll show you that later. So yeah, taking images with monochromatic camera under different spectrum of light, merging all the spectral images. This gives us multispectral imaging, and this is the electromagnetic wavelength range spectrum, and we are using 360 nanometers to 1050 nanometers. But that is low wave ultraviolet to near infrared. Why a low wave ultraviolet to near infrared? I will explain that in a moment. Before that, this was a video I was talking about. Forgive me for the animation. This is the first time I have done the animation and the sound effects. So I have tried it. Just forgive me. This is my first time. I'll just play it. But yeah, so this is the concept behind multispectral imaging. So if you go toward like this, and these are the spectral images that has been taken. Each of these are, as you can see, are grayscale images. So these has been stacked together, and then three of them has been merged, and then slowly it forms a pseudo color image that looks like this, and the text shows up, the ink shows up, which was never, the ink shows up here, which was not visible in the original RGB image. So this is what, like, why we are doing multispectral imaging, and this is a brief video that I have tried to put together to make people understand what MSI is. Moving on. So, as I have already told you, inks behave differently to various spectrum of light. Ink bleed through may be prominent in ultraviolet light. Water damage may be prominent in like infrared spectrum, and some inks may be prominent in the visible spectrum of light. So, if you ask, like you may ask by the end of the term, why didn't we do machine learning on this right now? The reason, the answer is most probably because we don't have enough proof under which light conditions should we take the data. Should we take the data in infrared or a mixture of infrared, ultraviolet and visible light, so that we can deliver a machine learning algorithm maximum information possible for it to go further beyond to discover some patterns. So that's why it is named a preliminary study, to see that which spectrum of light actually is important to take the images of these pages. So yeah, and this has been, and the motivation has been Archimedes Palimpsest, that has been done by Robert Easton and other people at Rochester Institute of Technology. So what they have done is that, so palimpsest. What is a palimpsest? The palimpsest is a process is like, you write something on a paper, you erase it, and you write something over it. So that's called a palimpsest. Overwriting a page by erasing old texts. That's palimpsest. So what is Archimedes Palimpsest? So these people, what they have done is, there was a book that had works of Archimedes. They erased it, and then they wrote Euclidean text on it. So what RIT people tried to do was try to find the erased text, what was in the erased text, and those were basically the works of Archimedes, and they were able to completely restore the Archimedes Palimpsest by using multispectral imaging. But they have a concept of overtext and undertext. So their concept of overtext is what has been written on top, and undertext, from the name suggests, it is written on bottom. So what is written on, like, undertext is the Archimedes text, and what has been written up is the overtext. But for us, the overtext and undertext varies. It doesn't have any overtext or undertext in a single page. It has text from different parts of the book. Like if there is a page, if this is a page and you keep on turning it, ink, due to the moisture content, ink can bleed through from the 5th or 6th page through the 6 or 7 pages. So for us, the challenge was the ink bleed through is not present in the opposite side of the page. It has been present from way long, like a page that has been far away. Like if you are on the 5th page, the ink might have come from the 10th or the 11th page because of the water moisture absorbed, because of the pages absorb the moisture, it made the ink travel through 8 or 9 pages. So yeah, so there are no works on ink bleed through like from different pages. There are works of ink bleed through, but those bleed throughs are like from this side of the page to this side of the page, not from far. So that was this, and our scenario is ink bleed through from one page to other page, 4 to 5 pages after or before. Yeah. So this is one of the. I don't know whether you can see. This is there is text over here, but there is no text over here. If you can see, there is no text over here. Similarly, you can see here there is no text over this region visible, but here we have found there are inks that are present. So yeah, Seth, I'm very grateful to him. We worked on the imaging and he helped a lot with the imaging, and this is the preservation process. So while like handling and conservation of heritage items is a field itself, there are many different theories of what to do and what not to do. The reason we don't use bare hands is that some conservation specialists say the oil in our hand is very bad for the item we are handling. It might spoil the original content of the page or the antique piece. So that's why we were wearing gloves, and we were putting this in a file so that while the process of imaging, if something happens and if the page tries to break down some of its parts because it was torn apart, so like it will be inside the file itself. So that's why we try to preserve it inside there and then image it. And this was the setup. So this is the light panel that produced ultraviolet, visible, and infrared light. And we have it from both sides. This is the right side and this is from the left side. So we have it on the both sides. You can imagine like this. And in the middle sits the sample, and on the top sits this camera. And this is a Megavision camera provided to us. It's a 120mm prime lens, and we set it at f12 aperture, and it's an apochromatic lens. So the reason we are using apochromatic lens, you may ask. So apochromatic lens is basically when you take an image, it makes every light, red, green, and every color of light fall at a single point, so that it reduces something called chromatic aberration. But for our case, we are using apochromatic lens because it was provided to us. But for our case, we may not require it because we are making it a monochromatic image. So it's okay. Like we were using it because it was a part of our set. But yeah, you may not use an apochromatic lens in case of monochromatic images. So yeah, this was the setup, and this was how the samples used to be laid with the color palette on. The color palette is for color correction in post-processing stage. And this was the cover we used, like curtain, so that like it's dark, completely dark inside. We took the dark frames and the flat frames, and you can see one of the light. It's a blue light that was being captured when Seth was monitoring that. And yeah, so that was the imaging part, and thank you, and thanks to Seth for helping me with that. That was a huge learning curve for me, how to do multispectral imaging. Yeah. Moving on from that with the post-processing and all. So this was the pipeline we came up with. We put the charge paper, normal, broken, damaged charge paper. We do a multispectral imaging on it under 12 spectrum. I will come to the later slide, what are the 12 spectrums. And then we do something called contrast stretching. So contrast stretching is basically evening out the contrast throughout the image, because we have an image generally due to the lens irregularity and the fisheye lens kind of like that, it has the high contrast in the middle and it starts to fade out on the corners. So to reduce that, you do something called contrast stretching and like normalizing the contrast throughout the image so that you get normalized contrast from left to right through the whole image. It should not be that you take an image, the image is very good contrast in the middle and slowly it has very bad contrast on the side. And then we do a principal component analysis. Why we do a principal component analysis is because, as you've seen from the video initially, the monochromatic images, each of them has some characteristics, like it may display the ink, it may display the water damage only, it may display something else. But we did principal component analysis too, because it might happen a very important ink part which we need, it might be spread across multiple spectrum of light. Some of it, there is a writing, some of it may be visible in infrared, some of it may be visible in ultraviolet, and some of it may be visible in visible range of light, VIBGYOR. So when we do PCA, we expect it to push all these features to the principal component. So maybe the first principal component should give us all the inks. The second principal component might give us all the water damages. Third might give us the texture of the page, and so on. So that's why we did a PCA, principal component analysis, and then we judged the best principal components, and then we try to stack in an RGB as I have shown you earlier, and then do some brightness and just adjustment, and then we get a pseudo colored image. So these are the wavelengths that we have used, starting from 365 nanometers to 1050 nanometers. There is a reason we have used this range. There is a reason we did not use beyond this range. I mean, we did not use 340 or 300 nanometers towards high wavelength, lower wavelength, or we did not use anything above 1050 like far infrared or anything. Why? The reason is because the sensor of the camera is silicon, and the silicon sensitivity per area changes like this. Like when you start from 300, it is very less sensitive to 300 nanometer photons. Like sensitivity in the sense, if this is the area of a silicon and if it gets 1000 photons, it will only tell that I have received 2 photons or 3 photons. Rest will go to drain because it is not sensitive to many photons. So that's how the sensitivity increases and then decreases. So a sweet spot for us was around this part, 360, and 1050 near this part. So that's why we have used this range, not beyond that, due to the sensor. And yeah, so this is one of the spectral. This is one of the RGB images, and this is one portion. And then, if you see here, so that portion of the images I am displaying, you can see ink has started to show up here, slowly started to show up here, and when you go to infrared, it starts showing up. The inks have start showing up over here at this near infrared. So when it was like UV, no inks were showing up much. So UV, and then now VI, LB, these are the names like VIBGYOR, they have given like by the software, like say indigo, ray, like this, blue, royal blue, so that thing. So if you see slowly, the text slowly starts to show up as you go towards infrared. So this was the property of the ink itself. And this is the thing I have explained, like this is the spectral cube by using all the spectral images, and then we do a principal component, we get multiple principal component, we choose 3 strongest principal component, we merge them and we get an RGB image, but it's pseudo color because it's false colored image. Yeah, this is one of the most destructed pages I have ever dealt with, and yes. So this is the 300 series verso. Okay, so before going forward, there is a term I will be using called recto and verso. So recto and verso is basically if you open a book and start to go like this, so the front of the page that has binding on this side is called recto. The page, when you turn the other side that has binding on this part is called a verso. Like when you see a book like this binded on the left, it's called a recto. When you turn the page to the opposite side, it is called the verso part of. So I am trying to say this side of the page and that side of the page. So if I see a page from front binded on the left, it is called a recto page, and when we turn it, it's the verso part of the page. So that's why it is like 300 CZ verso. So it's the opposite side. As you can see, the binding is basically on. This is what you can understand. The binding was on this side because it's very ununiform boundary on this side. So it's a verso. Moving on. So these were the texts that were there, but those molds doesn't show any inks. Those inks were totally gone, like it has been gone. So I don't read Greek, but like this is a part of, like, I have a friend who is Greek. She is not here anymore, but as far she have told me, this is a cursive form of Greek writing. This is very old, and yeah. So some of these I don't remember, but some of these tells this is the name or something. I don't remember. But yeah, I don't read Greek. Any of you read Greek? Any of you? No? Me neither. I literally forgot. Something was chronos, something that means time of birth or something. Something was there. But anyways. So these are the visible. But what about this part? These, as you can see, there is no inks over here. That's what, like there is no inks over here right now. And then we did a principal component analysis, and this is how the principal components look without doing any image enhancement, like adjusting the contrast or anything. It looks like this. And then X comes out over here. Can you see the text? Can you turn off this light? Can you turn off this light? Can you turn off the light? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, it's very high contrast on my machine, but due to this light, I'm sorry, I didn't know that. But yeah, here is the text that you can see here. But no text were there here. There was no text over here. So that came out from the after post-processing, after doing the stacking. And that's how we were able to find the trace of inks. So it is very inconvenient. Like there are like 12 principal components. If we try to do 3 combinations, it's a huge disaster. So what we did an ablation study. Like we divided it into groups. We named a group called F1 that has all the 12 spectral images. And then we went to F2 that has everything but the infrared. And then we have different combinations we try to deal with. And these are the groups we have made, and then for each of these groups we have tried multiple combinations of stacking the principal component, and this ablation study took us a lot of time. And this is what we came up with. 12 combinations for a single image, and these are the combinations that we get. So this is basically, we are telling that, okay, F2, from this group, we are taking the second principal component, the third and the fourth, and we are merging them in a group. That's how we get a decent looking false colored image. And this is the final ablation study, and this is the automated output of any image we will be able to take from any Sacramental journal or any damaged page, and this should produce these combinations of false colored images. From that, it depends on the human eye to see which is the best to them or not, but these are most optimum that we have found. And here are some studies, but an interesting thing, this is one of the infrared images that reveals a watermark. Can you see the watermark? So it's peerless ledger. I don't know which year's manufacturer it was. If you can search it and tell me, that will be great. It was named peerless ledger. I don't know, but it's really old. So this is what, like, they have like we know the manufacturer of the page now. And then yet another watermark. There's a star mark over there that we have found. It's a watermark. So you can like there can be a whole study with where the page came from, how old was it, and who manufactured it and all. Yes. And yes, as we go, so that pipeline we try to apply to all the pages that we have been supplied, and these were the results. So this is the RGB image, and this is the spectral image. So you can see the difference. This is the RGB image. Inks were not showing up too much on the bottom, and with the spectral, you can see there are traces of inks and even writing maybe on this part of the page. And this also you can see there is no writing on this part, and the ink really shows up on the spectral images. And this is yet another, but here I think here we can read most of the things with naked eye. So yeah, but yeah, if you can see on this part, there is no inks that is quite visible over here. This part, and there are inks there. There are inks there. So yeah, this shows up, and okay, this is a like weird thing, but when there is a bleed through from this side or from this side to this side of the page, what do you expect? If it is written on this part of the page and it is bled through, it should be a mirror image on that side. That's what we thought, but no, we see both sides of the page and it's the same orientation, and it's the cursive pi. So it is safe to tell this pi has been bled through from other pages, because it is not a mirror image when we turn the page. It's the same orientation, and this is nothing very symmetric though. So yeah, that's cursive pi bled through from like maybe 02 recto or I don't know 03 recto. And yet another place where you cannot see the ink and there are inks. And this is another example. These are like the findings we have, and yes, this is the bleed through. So this is the front, this is the recto part of the page, and this is the verso. If you can see, it is reversed. 1910 is reversed. So this is a proper example of bleed through on the same page from recto to verso. And yes, this was also a bleed through because we flipped a recto, we found this row, we found this letter row, which is not present on the verso part. So it is a bleed through maybe from 0 to recto or 0 to verso, I don't know. And yet another ink shows up here, and the most damaged page that I was talking about, 300 CZ verso, this is the output. You can see barely any text here, and it shows up with a whole bunch of text here, like in the spectral image. It shows up with a, can you see it from here?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the lighting. I didn't know it would affect that much, but yeah. So there are text present here. You can't see the text like here, but like text do. There are inks, and so Katrina Hurricane really messed it up. Yeah, and yet another thing. So to wrap up, I have yet another video. I'm sorry, but this is without sound. I didn't know that. I was playing with sound, so I didn't know. So it took me 9 hours to create that video because of the stacking and all the blending. But yeah, I was playing with sound. This has no sound though. I didn't know how do you like the sound or not. So yeah, I would go ahead and play the video. This is a final. This is. Oh wait, what? I have it played in a different window because PowerPoint was unable to play that. So this has the principal and the comparison. You can also see the watermark over here. The watermark is right over here. And to compare it with the original. Yeah. This is what came out from this one. No inks, a lot, not a lot of inks. There are inks that were present as text. Yeah. So that shows up. So yeah, this was a conclusion, and we did an ablation study that led us to do 12 groups for each of the events, and these are the ablation studies. So now we can go ahead and get more images, more papers from them, and try to image them for making a machine learning model ready enough to detect ink and not ink, and detect which part, like what are the inks and how it came, and to detect blurred, unblurred inks. Yeah, so once again, I am very grateful to Dr. Sales, Seth and Christy for their support and feedback for, with the project. And this next slide, I am happy to announce it has been accepted in a conference in India. I am going next month. I am going next month to my own country to present the conference, and I'm going in a good month. It's a festive month in India, so I'll be going. I'll be eating a lot. I'll be coming back. Maybe or may not be with sweets. I don't know whether they will allow. But yeah, I may come back with sweets. I'll email if I come back with sweets. And so the stage is open for the questions. Thank you for your patience.
I didn't expect this talk to be so interesting.
Thank you.
So questions? Any questions?
The item is really good. So I don't have an figure. How do you classify it's an actual ink script or it's an ink bleed? So what's
No, we haven't classified yet. That's what we will be doing as we go on collecting data, because we don't so okay, if you see the spectral image, you can tell, because if you have all the pages, if you see, okay, there is an ink. If the ink is not present on the opposite side of the page, then it is not a bleed through from that place, that's for sure. And if it is a very deep ink, that's not a bleed through. Ink bleed throughs are generally blurred and blotted. And when you know, so that's a gray area maybe it's for a machine learning model to classify whether it's a bleed through or not. If it is a bleed, it looks like a bleed through, we will see whether it comes from the opposite side of the page or not. And if it is not present in the opposite side of the page, we have to check the adjacent pages whether it comes from there or not. And if it is nowhere, that means it was not an ink bleed through, it was just an ink that blotted over there. That's it. But yeah, that's an interesting question, and that also came to our mind. Thank you for this. Does that answer your question?
Any other questions?
Shoot with questions, please.
So you say that this is going to be used to train machine learning algorithms. What will those do?
Those will take these, those will detect whether there are text inks on the part of the page or not. And if there is, then what does it show? Because there are also some problems right now. If you see some images, the inks are visible, but we don't know what kind of writing is. It is just spread out, it's just like blurred. So the machine learning model will also try to do some thinning algorithm to detect what the inks are properly, as we can see with human. Does that answer your question?
Well, actually, I have a question. My first question is related to the question Dr. Wilson just asked. That when you do a machine learning, to get a good result of machine learning, your sample data should be big enough. But in your case, I don't think you would have enough sample data.
So, this is a, yeah, we don't have right now. So, even if they provide a whole Sacramental journal, that will not be enough data. So, we may take help of diffusion models to generate new data. We may take help of diffusion model to generate new data that has damage, ink bleeds, and ink wash away. We will try to do that.
Yeah, but your data is, your data set is supposed to be related to your multispectral.
Yes. Yes. So if you train a diffusion model on a multispectral script, it might be possible to generate new images, because diffusion model has been generating city images. So it's highly possible that it will, but I can't guarantee. We have to see. Yes.
All right. The second question is that is a technique you present here capable of recover central content of the document?
Yes. The essential content of the document, the preachings of the church, how the church acted, what the church believed in, who got baptized, and when the church was formed, which priests were there, where did the priests travel to provide sacraments. So yeah, these are the information that we're trying to retrieve. And in collaboration with obviously the Greek Orthodox Holy Trinity community, they are also interested because they want to preserve the history of their church, because after the Hurricane Katrina, it was all gone into the pieces.
Well, I hope your technique can make some ancient history.
Oh yeah, that's my dream. Yes, that's my dream.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you very, very